All right. Back from the interpretive power of, yeah, the book of Genesis actually. So, secret history number 17, literary Genesis. So, yeah, it's the literary aspect of the book of Genesis actually, to be exact, you know. I did excuse the fact that, you know what, we are well, it may be religiously like you may have, you know, the inclination to want to see things religiously or maybe morally or whatever as per your understanding of the Bible. You know what I'm saying? But you know, this is just it's nothing but a lecture classroom. My neighbor, you know what I'm saying? It's like, yo, chill. It's like it's not that deep. You know what I mean? So, you know, come in here with your open interpretation, and yeah, receive from it what you will. You know what I mean? And I'm only saying this because we just come from breaking down the story of Jacob, Leah, and Rachel. You know what I'm saying? Homie right here is calling it well, it is a love story. Absolutely, I agree with him on that one. But he's also calling it a great comedy. To me, it's quite the contrary. You know what I'm saying? It's not comedic. It's actually very heavy-hearted. You know what I'm saying? I don't know how he came to the conclusion of it being comedic. Professor Jang, that is. You know, the story of Jacob, Leah, and Rachel. So, on to the next segment of things. Let's see what it is, though.
All right. Okay. So now we go on to David, okay? The story of David is very
all right, let's do David.
Complicated, okay? So in the Bible, what it tells us is that God needs a king for the nation of Israel. And he sends a prophet named Samuel to find a king, and he goes to the house of Jesse. And in the house of Jesse, he finds David, who's the youngest boy, and he says, you in the future be the favored king of Israel, okay? And David, in his early age, does wonderful things. For example, he defeats Goliath, okay? So you've heard the story of David and Goliath, right?
Yep. Definitely.
But after he kills Goliath, the king, Saul, becomes envious, jealous of David, and that forces David to run away. Eventually, Saul is killed.
Why was he envious of David? Is it because of the king status?
And David comes back and becomes king, okay? King Saul becomes envious, jealous of David, and that forces David to run away.
Yeah, I do think it's because of the king status that God was already telling him about David.
Eventually, Saul is killed, and David comes back and becomes king, okay? That's the story in the Bible. Guys, as you learn in this class, this is all propaganda, okay? What really happened is that Saul is king, David is the mercenary, and he's a very good and popular mercenary.
Wait, how do you know that how do we get to the conclusion that that other version is propaganda?
He has a lot of soldiers who follow him, and therefore he kills Saul and becomes king himself, okay? But now, what the Bible needs to do is legitimize David, okay? Try to tell us that, oh no, David is not ambitious, he was not ruthless. God willed him to be king, okay? And that's why the Bible was written the way it was. So
he didn't snatch the throne.
This is written
was handed to him
by the court historian, okay? The person who wrote Genesis is a person we call the Yahwehist, okay? Because for her, the God is Yahweh, the Yahwehist, or J. This person is a court historian. So his job is to clean up the image of David, to tell the story of David again, but in a much more clean way that absolves him.
David's publisher, PR agent.
Of any crimes, okay?
Yeah.
So, where we are on the story is that Saul is dead.
Saul is dead?
But Saul's family is still around. And Saul's family has a general named Abner, okay? But after Saul is dead, Abner feels slighted by the family. So Abner's like, screw this, I'm gonna go and support David. And David, of course, is very happy, okay? All right?
Why?
Abner came with 20 men to David at Hebron. David made a feast for Abner and the men who were with him. Abner said to David, "Let me go and rally all Israel to you in order that you may take a covenant with me and you may reign over all that your heart desires." Okay?
Yeah.
So what Abner's saying is, make me your general and I will give you Israel. David dismissed Abner and went away in peace. Then the servants of David arrived with Joab from a raid. Okay, so Joab is David's general, bringing much spoil with them. But Abner was not with David at Hebron, for David had dismissed him, and he had gone away in peace. When Joab and all the army that was with him came, it was told Joab, Abner came to the king, and he has dismissed him, and has gone away in peace. Now Joab and Abner have a conflict, because Abner killed one of Joab's brothers. So
Why?
Joab wants to kill Abner.
Why?
Okay? What have you done? Abner
Why did he kill his brother?
came to you. Why did you dismiss him so that he got away? You know that Abner came to deceive you and to learn your comings and goings and to learn all that you are doing. Joab came out from David's presence. He sent messengers after Abner. They brought him back from the cistern of Sarah. But David did not know about this, okay? So Joab goes and kills Abner. Okay? Now, so if you read the story, you think that David did nothing wrong. Okay? But if you think about it, there are lots of problems with this story. The first problem is that Joab, the general, is rebelling against David, right?
Yo.
If you're David, who are you more afraid of? Are you afraid of Abner or are you afraid of Joab? You're afraid of Joab, right? Because Joab has your army. Okay? So there's no way that David would allow Joab to rebel against him. So the only conclusion is that Joab acted with the permission of David. So David knew about this, okay? All right, this is a lie. David knew about this. In fact, David probably ordered Joab to kill Abner. Then the question is why?
Why?
Well, if you're a king, you're most concerned about loyalty, right?
Yeah.
If Abner betrayed Saul's family, there's a possibility Abner will come and betray you as well, okay? So this guy needs to be eliminated because
that bird never changed its spots.
He's dangerous, okay?
Yep.
And it makes sense because remember, David betrayed Saul, so he's afraid that others will betray him as well. All right? So this story, even though it's a lie, it gives us enough clues to construct the truth for ourselves. And that's what makes the Bible different from other religious texts. Other religious texts are sayings or truisms, but these are stories. And stories are living things that we can reconstruct in our heads. Okay? And again, this helps us explain why the Jews are so creative people, because they grew up in a tradition of stories as opposed to truths or sayings.
Truths, sayings, laws, just rules, regulations, this and that and the third, right?
Constantly reimagine these stories for themselves. All right, so now we get to the most famous story of David. All right?
Let's go.
So
David and Bathsheba.
In the spring of the year, when kings go out to battle, David sent Joab with his officers and all Israel with him. Okay? So what's really important to know is that even though Joab disobeyed David and killed Abner, Joab was never punished, okay? Yeah. Which tells us that Joab was probably acting on the orders of David. They routed the Ammonites and besieged Rabbah, but David remained at Jerusalem. Okay, so David's in Jerusalem while the army is fighting elsewhere. It happened late one afternoon when David rose from a couch and was walking about on the roof of the king's house that he saw from the roof a woman bathing. And the woman was very beautiful. David sent someone to inquire about her. It was reported, this is Bathsheba, okay?
Bathsheba,
daughter of Eliam, the wife of Uriah the Hittite. So David sent messengers to get her, and she came to him, and he lay with her.
Bathsheba. I'm not gonna lie. I'm gonna go ahead. Let me go ahead and get into these comments. See the comments on Story Player, right? Because I feel like there's a whole lot of interpretation of Mr. Jang's understanding of literary genesis. You know what I mean? I feel like we are at a point where if you've made it this far in the video, go ahead and, you know, give his channel a tap in predictive history. You know what I mean? But yeah, let's get into these comments, bro. I'm not even gonna hold you.